Urban Meyer, now the official new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, it feels like home, and that's the plan. So we're gonna get settled in quick.
Yeah, I'm excited for Jacksonville because they've got one heck of a good football coach.
All due respect to 4 or 5, 6 year plans, that's not the plan at all. The plan is try to do the very best we can to win. Every time we line up, you try to win.
So welcome to Bellwether Restaurant in Jacksonville. This is our Pundits podcast. We talk Jaguars football, and I'm surrounded by 3 first-round draft picks, which is pretty good stuff. I've got Leon Searcy drafted by the Steelers in the first round. Jeff Lageman drafted by the Jets in the first round. I can't remember this guy's name, but Boselli drafted by the Jaguars.
Only one Jaguar first round.
Only one Jaguar first round. But let me ask you, I'm going to start with this. You had to go against these guys in practice.
I owned them.
Did you own it?
Yeah, I owned them.
Who won the practice battles? That's what I want to know. These guys had to be hard to go.
Well, it was pretty even, but I will say that one of the most interesting pass rushes I ever had was against Leon, because I was a knock the hands down guy. Okay, and Leon and Tony were both really good about learning that I was one of those guys. And I'll never forget a one pass rush. Leon pulled his hands back away from me, and then he hit me. And I was what you call a horizontal roach in the air.
Yeah. He went flying?
Yeah. So he had one of the best punches ever that I faced. And he was the most athletic big guy that I ever faced. So, yeah, it was good to go against these guys, but I didn't get a lot of confidence built up in practice.
First of all, no one wanted to practice with Leon because he punched too hard. Including the offensive lineman. I'm like, I'm not going to pair him. I'll pair with Big Ben. Me and Ben will pair up because a little lighter on the hands.
And I would guess Lageman was sneaky. That would have been my guess.
He was a wily old vet.
He was wily.
Yeah, he was wily.
I would have guessed that. All right,
well, it depends when it is, too. Of course, training camp was more intense. When we got to the season, he was wily by not doing much.
Is that what it was?
In signaling, like,
brother-in-law.
Hey,
making deals.
This is true, and it's still true today. Okay, every car only has so many miles. Okay, so if you use up all your miles in practice, that means that's the less number of games you got to play, right? Okay, so do you want to keep the car ready for game day, or do you want to burn it up on the practice track?
We learned a little bit on practice.
So you guys were all there for the glory days. You guys were on that 99 team that was so good. You guys were part of the team that went that great run in 96. From your standpoint, on the field, we all watched it and loved it. Jeff, what was it like? What was that 96 run like? If you'd been in New York, what was that like from a player standpoint? Because it was pretty magical for us watching.
It was magical as a player. Expansion franchise, first ever, everything in 95, and then all of a sudden 96, you're winning. Wow. People at restaurants, Jaguar, wanting autographs, and then when you come back home in the playoffs of 96, literally there's thousands of people at the airport. You win again, and now you can't even get from the airport back to the stadium to get home. And then all of a sudden you're heading to an AFC championship game, and you're doing a flyby over the stadium with 40,000 people in it. I mean, crazy cool.
And you had just gotten to the league. I mean, you're 1 year in. I guess this stuff's easy, right?
No, actually, I don't think it was that magical during the regular season, really, because what everyone forgets, we were 4-7 and like just circling. Right. I mean. Andre Badman Rising getting cut. The locker room was mad. I mean, we were
a little tension back then.
Little tension. And then we won a game, and then we barely beat Baltimore, and then we barely beat. We just were limping along, and next thing you knew, we were like 7-8, and we're like, okay, we've won 3 in a row. Like maybe, 7-7. And I'm like, huh. And then now for the first time, Atlanta's here, and we control our own destiny. And then we almost blew that. I mean,
because that was the first game that we actually had
paid
pressure
attention. Yeah.
on us. I mean, because the rest of the time, that was like playing with house money.
True.
So you were a free agent that picked Jacksonville. You were playing with. Why'd you pick Jacksonville? How'd you land here?
The money.
They paid you the most money.
They made me the most money.
Yeah.
Actually, me and the Steelers actually got into a little altercation. My agent had me on the phone, and I was listening to the Steelers tell me how I wasn't the type of player that could go somewhere else and have success. So I wanted to prove to them within myself that I could go somewhere and have success. And I remember my agent called me up and he said, "Leon, we got a team for you." I said, "Who?" He said, "Jaguars." I said, "Jaguars?" I said, "The Jaguars suck." That's exactly what that first thing I said. He said, "No, you got to come down here." But I came down here. Tom Coughlin met, Mike Weaver. Mr. Weaver, and that first year, we were like the land of misfit dolls. To be quite honest with you, we had guys from this team, that team, free agents here, rookies here, whatever. And the first half of the season was a rocky season. We started out 4-7, but when we realized we had a shot, we just kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. Then we got to that last game. We was like, man, we got a shot. And then when they missed that field goal, when Andersen missed that field goal, it was crazy. Because I was on the sideline. I'll be honest with you. I was on the sideline making travel arrangements. I was like, we're done. He doesn't miss no 30-yard field goals. All right, he doesn't miss. So when it went wide left, I said, damn.
No, we're sitting on the sideline because we didn't play great offensively. I mean, we only scored 17 points, whatever it was, 17, 16, whatever. And they couldn't get off the field in the fourth quarter. Yeah, and we were just sitting there going, I'm like, we're going to blow this thing. But all people remember in 96 is, Buffalo, Denver, and then the lost in AFC, like this magical, we were a mess. We were a mess midseason. People weren't happy. I mean, a lot of complaining about the head coach.
Yeah, there was nearly a revolt.
A revolt, and then we barely got there. And then we almost screwed it up at the end. And so it was an interesting year.
I can tell you, back then the media would go down. You'd go down the last 5 minutes. You were in the press box, and you got on the field. So I was standing right across from Morton Andersen, like when he kicked it. And when he missed it, we were almost like it didn't really happen. We're numb. We're all the media guys. We're looking at you guys. You guys are all, and we're like, we're in shock. Our jaws are dropping. We're excited because now we get to cover the playoffs, right? But we couldn't believe it happened. So it's pretty. Final question about the past. We'll move to this year. You guys are part of the '99 team, which I thought was the best team in the league that year. Just couldn't get over the hump against the Titans, obviously. How hard was that for you guys that last game?
Well, it was frustrating because, this team had our number, and we finally had what we wanted. We wanted the road to the Super Bowl to come through Jacksonville. Number 1 seed, all this amazing talent. Whoever got to go to the Super Bowl got to come to Jacksonville. And, we put the whooping on the Dolphins, so we just automatically thought that whoever we played next week was going to get the same beating. But it was just tremendously frustrating because it was so much. I always say when I retire, I look back at the guys in the locker room, the guys I played with, the tremendous talent we had and wasted, Boselli, Jimmy, Keenan, Mark Brunell, Brackens, all them guys on that. That we should have been hoisting a Lombardi trophy with all that talent we had on that team. So it was very frustrating.
Yeah, it was different for me because I blew my knee out in that week, fourth quarter, I think it was the end of the game that didn't mean anything against Cincinnati. So I was sitting up in the booth and mixed emotions. Gutted because we weren't going to go to the Super Bowl, but I was just as gutted selfishly that I was on the field. So I was sitting there feeling sorry for myself and feeling sorry for my teammates. So it was like this combination. And the frustrating thing is, they had our number, kind of.
Kind of?
Well, from the standpoint, if you go back to that first game that we lost to here, we had the ball first and goal, down 2, could have kicked a field goal to win the whole thing. And instead of just running it out, threw an interception. So it wasn't like they beat us good up on day after Christmas because Mark got knocked out of the game and it got away from us. But it wasn't like, we should have won the first game. And we didn't. And so the frustrating part is that we allowed a team that was very good, no doubt about it. But we were a better football team. We just didn't play well. We didn't play well the first time. We had dead to rights. Just kick a field goal or walk in. They beat us up there, and then sitting there in that stadium.
And should have run the ball more in the AFC Championship.
Oh gosh,
let these big guys. Yeah. Just an analyst perspective there, because that's what I was at that point. I was going.
If you go back to that game too, because I was sitting in the press box, I'm like, the first drive, bam, 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 score. Second drive, bam, 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 we're driving, interception in the end zone. I'm like, just run the ball. We were averaging like 5 yards a carry, and I'm like, what are we doing? And
Buddy Ryan might have wanted to punch Coughlin in that game.
But we should have. But bottom line is, don't get a safety. Don't get a punt return on you after a safety. I mean, we didn't make plays.
All right, let's fast forward. Everything about there's more excitement. We've all talked about the level of excitement in this community that we haven't had in a long time. It all starts with Urban Meyer. Leon, I'm going to start with you.
I disagree with you.
Okay, it doesn't?
No, well, I disagree with what you just said.
It starts with Trevor?
It starts with Trevor Lawrence.
Well, I'll get to Trevor.
Do a survey real quick. Who's to start with?
Number one.
Trevor.
QB1. QB1.
Like, I would be just as excited if, like, Robert Saleh was the quarterback because we have Trevor Lawrence.
Well, and maybe one of the reasons we have Trevor Urban is because he knew he was getting Trevor.
Exactly.
I don't think that's but I'm going to make a comment about Urban, because I'm going to ask you. You played for Bill Cowher and Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, that is two my way or the highway type guys.
Jimmy Johnson too.
And Jimmy. So you play. That's right. So what is your take from afar watching Urban compared to that list of Hall of Fame coaches?
Well, Urban makes the players uncomfortable. That's why I wanted Urban Meyer to be. I thought that over the last couple of years, this team was laxed and in practice, and they showed on the field. And I wanted some guys to make guys come. Believe it or not, players like to be stressed. They want to be stressed and shake the tree a little bit. So I wanted the Urban Meyer hire because, I just wanted to make these guys a little bit more uncomfortable. Not to have a country club type of environment in the locker room, on the field, and in the game. So I wanted Urban here because, I want guys to be uncomfortable.
Leon, can he make that Jimmy Johnson college to pro transition that he's trying to make?
He can, he can if he does a couple of things. He's got to draft well. Jimmy drafted well, okay? He's got to get speed on both sides of the ball. If you look at those Dallas Cowboy teams in the 90s, he drafted well and he got speed. And it doesn't hurt to have a Hall of Fame quarterback. So, he's on the right trail right now. You got Trevor Lawrence. Now, I'm not giving him a gold jacket right now, but you got a prototype quarterback, that can lead this franchise. We haven't had a franchise quarterback since freaking Mark Brunell.
All right, we're gonna get to quarterback, but what have you seen from Urban? When you've watched Urban, you've been at every practice. We've done the games. What have you seen? What have you liked and not liked? What has been your take on Urban?
I like the way that he interacts with all of the players. I do like that. And the one thing I think that you have to earn for a lot of coaches is you got to earn respect. When Urban walks onto a field, he does have respect right away because he's won everywhere he's been, and players want to win. So when the coach speaks, they're going to listen because he's been a winner before. But now once he starts to speak to them week after week after week, his message has to have something. And so he has to continue to earn that respect. And I think he's a smart guy. Everywhere he's been a smart guy. So I hope he can win, but here's the one thing that I believe. You look at the Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Fame coaches are in there without a Hall of Fame quarterback? But you flip that around, there's quarterbacks that are Hall of Famers that didn't have a Hall of Fame coach. So I think Urban Meyer is incredibly bright. Do you take this job if it's Gardner Minshew? Hell no.
Yeah, and he pretty much said that. Tony, you watch a lot of college football. You've got two sons who are playing Division I college football still. You've made the comment, I agree with it, by the way, that college and pro are more similar than they've been. Given that, your take on the same question I just asked these guys. How's Urban going to do making that transition?
Urban's a great leader. He's proven that. And so I got to believe he's smart enough to figure out how to relate to whether it's a bunch of 18 to 24-year-olds now to a bunch of 21-year-olds to 35-year-olds. Like you'd hope he'd have a sense if he's the leader that we think he is. But at the end of the day, that's great. He can be, Tony Robbins of motivational speakers if he wants to be. If you don't have players at this level, you're not going to win. And the college and pro game are very similar now from a stylistic standpoint. Also from the standpoint, if you don't have players, you're not going to win. And so I'm not discounting the importance of coaching, because you have to have organization, you have to have motivation, you have to have leadership. The guys in that locker room have to buy into what you're selling. Jeff's right. He has instant credibility coming in. But these guys will tell you, and anyone who's been a player in this league will tell you, that credibility disappears really, really fast if you don't win. Like, I think the message gets old if you've lost 5 in a row. I mean, that's reality.
I think it's pretty cool too, because you've got this new training facility project that's going to be happening for the Jaguars. That's going to have state-of-the-art, best of the best for the players. Does any of that happen without the combination of Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer?
No, that doesn't. But I agree with that. And I'm not discounting Urban's presence. Right. I think it's huge. I agree, Jeff. The quarterback's more important than the coach in today's football. The test for Urban, and you asked Leon about Jimmy Johnson, the thing that Jimmy was great at, remember, they were 1-15 the first year Jimmy got there. He was able to keep them engaged and keep them buying into whatever he was selling. Now, I don't think this team will be 1-16. Now they'll play 17 games. I think they're better than that. I don't think, if you look at history with rookie quarterbacks, I don't think they're a playoff team either. So when they go through those rough spots and they go through, what is just inevitable, can Urban hold this team together with his message and his leadership style to get them to the point when they do have enough talent?
Yeah, trust the process.
That's right. Can you? Because the great coaches and the great leaders, when it's not, if you're winning football games,
it's easy.
Players buy anything.
Right.
I mean, you tell me to stand on my head if it's going to help me win football games. Okay, I'll stand on my head, like whatever you want. But it's when it's not going well, that this is where Urban's going to have to, and this will be his toughest year, I think. This first year will be Urban's toughest year to change the culture. Leon's right, they needed to change, to get them through the rough spots, the ups and downs that they're going to face with a young football team, to next year where you buy in and like, this is who we are and this is how we do things. This will be his biggest test.
Let's start with that quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, generational. We've been excited since Frank Gore made the first down. This whole city has been excited since the Jets won the game. What have you seen from Trevor off the field, on the field? What are your early impressions?
I think personally, he is so incredibly prepared for this. There's nothing that's too big, because a lot of quarterbacks that become the first overall pick, it's too big for them. He's always been kind of the perfect fit for the big moment. A top pick coming out of high school or top recruit, played in a national program. He's humble. He handles the media. He handles the pressures very well. And all that's fine and great, but you have to have the physical capability, and he does. His feet are so far advanced from any young quarterback that I've seen come into the league. His eyes are incredibly trained. He has accuracy, he has athleticism, he has great throwing motion, he has velocity. There is nothing that he doesn't have. And when you have all of that, and you go back to the draft when Trent Baalke and Urban Meyer were talking about him as a prospect, they said the stars aligned. I think that was the perfect analogy. And they're not talking about the stars being aligned for the franchise to be able to get him, which that's part of aligning too. But it's that you have arguably one of the best prospects to ever come into the National Football League, and some say in the last 50 years. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just know that he is a talent, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Leon, of all the things Jeff said, he used the word humble. I watched he had this video, this goodbye video to Clemson, and they did it, the Clemson Sports Information people, whoever did it. And they asked him, what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, this guy's one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. He's got a national title, finished second in the Heisman, the whole bit, almost won another one. He said, I want my legacy to be how I treated people. Now, that sounds corny maybe, but it really resonated with me. When you've been the superstar your whole life and you've been told how great you are, man, it would be easy to start thinking, I'm the stuff, I think that's probably what impressed me about him as much as anything.
He's a character guy, I've been watching this kid since he was at Clemson, and he's unshaken. Every play I've seen him go up against, he'd get knocked down to get blitzed. He'll just go on to the next play on the sideline. He's got a cool demeanor. It's something about his presence in the huddle, and I was saying how important it's going to be for him. His presence in the huddle is going to elevate everybody else's, because you got somebody that can help you win football games, so you're going to make sure you're going to take care of them as far as protection goes. But the kid's got the stuff. I mean, he's got the arm, he's got the presence, his progressions, his toughness. I mean, I'm glad he's here in Jacksonville. Hell, I'm glad he's out the ACC because Miami, because he used to put a whooping on us all the
time. Tony, you've seen 3 games. You've seen practices. Trevor, about what you thought?
Yeah, he's good. I mean, he's got.
Well, that's profound.
Well, no, I'm saying, but everything Jeff says is right.
Yeah.
Leon's right. I mean, his leadership, humility. I mean, you knew that coming in. But I will still argue the greatest thing he has done for me is none of those things, because I knew that coming in. I mean, did we think he did not have a good arm? I think we knew that. I mean, he talked about the Clemson goodbye. I'm sure someone wrote a nice script, and he seems like a humble kid. I agree with you. Right. And I mean, he has all the. I mean, if you were like shaping out of clay, you know, if Michelangelo was going to sculpt the quarterback, I mean, Trevor Lawrence would be right up there with one of the guys he did. None of that to me it's great, but the most important thing is his toughness to me. Because I always ask the question of every quarterback comes into the league, can you stand up in there when you're going to get hit? Because I used to make fun of Mark all the time. You know, if he complained about the pressure or about us not blocking, and I'd look at him and say, listen, anybody can do it when there's no pressure. I could go play quarterback back there if there's no, I knew I was going to get hit.
That's not true.
I know, that's an exaggeration. But you know the point. But I literally tell him that. I'm like, 7-on-7, I go, the great ones can do it when they're about to get hit in the mouth. And that's what you don't know. And we've seen guys here who have all look pretty and can throw it and spin it. But you know what? They got into the thing. It's like, I'm going to get hit. Like Mark was great about standing in the pocket. He would take a hit. He'd get smoked and get up and go play. So I wanted to see that, and I saw that. And that's the most reassuring thing is, you know, I could think of, and I think it was game 1, he rolls out, or maybe it was game 2, and he gets hit in the face as he's throwing on the run, and it's accurate. You saw him step up in the pocket, getting hit in the face as he's throwing the ball. He's taking some shots. He gets up, goes back to the huddle, patting guys in the back. It's like, I'm like, okay, it's not the regular season, but at least I don't see a guy whose feet are jumping around. And he's looking for the exit as soon as it's not there. I think that's the most important thing because I don't think you can play quarterback. I don't think you can win consistently in this league if you can't win from the pocket. I don't care how athletic you are. I don't care how much you run around. You can run read option to your, blue in the face. It doesn't matter. You have to win from the pocket, and you have to operate from the pocket. You don't know that about a kid until he does it, and he did it in the preseason.
All right, let's talk about what's around him. Leon, let's start with the line. The offensive line is back intact. Is that good or bad? The general consensus is the middle 3 guys have been pretty good. We hope the tackles are pretty good. What's your take on those 5 guys?
Well, I like to see what was good. They've got the continuity because they played together 2 to 3 years together, right? Because I hold a higher standard because I played across from this guy at the tackle position. The tackle position has got to improve, especially if you're going to protect Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Cam Robinson is going into a contract year again. That shouldn't be the reason why he only plays well, but he's got to work on his feet, his techniques, his fundamentals. Still a little shaky. Jawan Taylor, he actually took a dip, in my opinion, from his rookie year. And, he instead of elevating his game, he kind of took a step back, so he's got to do better. And interiorly, I mean, they're sound. They're sound, especially in the run game. I mean, they're sound in the run game. I mean, listen, me and Boselli used to get all the credit for the offensive line, right? Okay, we did. All right, we did. But the meat and potatoes of the run game is the interior of the offensive line, the center and the 2 guards. All right, so you don't get an undrafted free agent and to rush for over 1,000 yards if you don't have. You have to solidify the middle of the offensive line. So I think those guys are sound there. Now they can work a little bit better on their pass protecting, but the run game is solid. So the offensive line right now is probably one of the pluses as far as the plus because they've been together. Yeah. They've been together as a unit for the last couple of years.
Wayne, guys, how goes the line? What do you think of the line?
I think they got work to do. I mean, simple fact. I mean, we all 3 are of the same opinion. We've had this conversation amongst us, and it's from a defensive end's perspective and offensive tackle's perspective. We feel good about the line and the inside. We feel that there's questions at the tackles. I mean, and that's the way it is. But the one thing that makes me feel better about this line, did Tom Brady have the greatest offensive line ever? I mean, he had arguably the greatest offensive line coach ever. And Dante Scarnecchia up in New England for many years was really good and made a lot of average players play better. Did Peyton Manning have the greatest offensive line? No. Quarterbacks can make an offensive line better, and Trevor Lawrence will make this offensive line and the tackles better. But the nice thing about this offensive line, they did add some guys. Okay, Walker Little specifically, that's competition. And there's a guy in the wings, okay, if there becomes a problem somewhere at the bookends, he's going to play. Make no mistake about it.
I mean, the question we should be asking is this offensive line better than they were last year?
Will it be?
I don't think so. I mean, are they better today? I mean, I hope they're better overall. I mean, you have an aging Linder and Norwell. Are they going to? I mean, Norwell's been hurt. Are they going to be better than they were last year? Well, let's just hope they stay the same. AJ Cann had his best year as a pro. So, like, okay, great. So maybe he's on the ascending, or he's going to be a good player. Because I like AJ Cann a lot, and I agree with Leon. Those interior three are solid. They didn't upgrade at tackle. It's the same two guys that were inconsistent last year. I think Cam's had a better camp than Juwan, but I've seen inconsistencies there. So the question is what have they done different? Yes, they brought Walker Little, but he's not going to make an impact early in this year. I mean, this is the same five guys. So what you're hoping for and what you're betting on is that they're going to play better. That at the end of the day, because you didn't do anything to change it, you have the same offensive line coach, maybe some schematic changes. So the bet you're making, if you're Urban Meyer and if you're Trent Baalke, is that the five guys that we had last year that were average, especially at tackle, are just going to be better. Like, they're just going to be better players. And so, and in my book, until I see it, I'm not going to give you the benefit.
Since you have some doubts about that.
Well, I mean, until you see something different.
Yeah.
There was a couple games last year, and you know, we're in the radio booth, we all see it, and it comes down to 2-minute offense. They didn't hold up in protection. That was a problem. And so, is that going to continue to be a problem? I mean, that's something certainly to watch.
And I'm not. And do I think they're talented? Yeah, I actually think Juwan Taylor and Cam are both talented guys. But that doesn't matter. Talent doesn't block them. Doing it the right way blocks people. And the penalties, they're just inconsistent. Because then that's what drives you crazy. And you know, our old offensive line coach Mike Mazer, who's passed away, used to say, he says, listen, either be bad all the time or be good all the time. But this up and down stuff, I can't. Bob, he was a way more colorful. Well, I said bleed. Yelling it when he was saying. I bleed, but he would literally just lose it. He was like, I can't handle this. And what he's saying there is like, what are we getting? What can I count on? And so, the bet we made this offseason as a franchise is that the five guys and the coach that we had last year, which I don't think anyone would say it was good enough to win. Would you, Jeff, Leon?
Good enough.
We are betting on that group being just better. Because we didn't make any changes.
So let's go to weapons around them. I know I saw the look on your face when you found out Travis Etienne was down. I saw the look on your face. Of all the people I talked to, you're the one who your face color changed the most because he was the explosive one, right? Is there enough explosion, fast guys, burst guys around Trevor Lawrence?
Is there enough? No. I mean, that's why they went out and tried to get an ETN. Yeah. Because there was a guy that literally every time he touches the ball, he's a threat to go the distance if he's in space. Do they have another guy that can do that? No. Do they have some good wide receivers? Sure. I mean, Marvin Jones Jr. is a good wide receiver. DJ Chark is a good wide receiver, but he had an off year last year. Laviska Shenault Jr. looks like he's got some big playability from a physical standpoint. You know, the trio of juniors, right? I mean, all three wide receivers. Tight end group doesn't really have a guy. James Robinson doesn't have game-breaking speed. I mean, that loss of Etienne, because, when you have a young quarterback, you always want to have a couple things. One, a running game to help him along, and two, easy completions in the passing game. And easy completions can come from the tight end position and then dump offs to a running back. Well, they didn't marry up as far as the talent and the draft position of the Jaguars, so they didn't improve at tight end, but they got it at the running back position. And Etienne was a guy that literally, how many touchdowns he scored in the ACC? Yeah, well, like 78 and 50 of them were against Miami.
He scored more than half.
He scored 78 touchdowns.
78. 78, and I in my mind I had this vision of how they were going to use them. him and J-Rob on the field.
What was your vision based on? Because I never saw it.
Well, they never got to it, did they?
No, I mean, I didn't even notice it in practice all that much.
No, but in my mind, I mean, I'm sitting here doing the mad scientist thing. Okay, if I had a really good running back that could tote the rock, and then I had a really good running back who could catch the ball out of the backfield that has game-breaking speed, I'm putting them both on the field at the same time. Okay, and now you have to match up as a defense. So from a schematic standpoint, you got to figure out how to cover a guy that has world-class speed. So how do you do that? Do you do it with a safety? And most safeties don't have world-class speed. Okay, do you do it with a linebacker? There's not a linebacker in the league that could stay step for step with Travis Etienne. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. It created a great mismatch opportunity. Now we never got to see it, and I totally get it. But you know, here's
had
the
him
thing.
in space the one time and Minshew missed the throw.
Yeah, he
there was
throws
nobody
over his
near
head.
him.
And then in New Orleans, he trips over his own feet. But I mean, that was going to be something that I think that was going to have a huge impact with his offense. And now it's like, you know, you get the Christmas present gets put away and you don't get to open it until next year.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, Frank. Let me ask you a question. Does Travis make the wide receivers better by throwing them open?
Absolutely, because if you're a linebacker or you're a safety, okay, and there's a wide receiver running deep routes, okay, I'm the safety, and I'm looking up here, and all of a sudden I got guys running routes over in here, and all of a sudden I see Etienne coming out of the backfield, and I know that this guy has got something that's pretty special. All of a sudden I start cheating up a little bit. Maybe it opens up some stuff for the guys back behind. I mean, so absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question that they didn't answer, or you wanted to answer, I shouldn't say they didn't, that's not fair. In the offseason, who's going to score touchdowns? And that's what they brought Etienne to do.
Tony, you said
And
that
so,
in our broadcast.
who's going to score touchdowns? Because at the end of the day, you got to score points in this league. And I did, you know, I wasn't like you, I mean, not a biggest draft a running back early guy, which is, I'm like this personal. And when they drafted him, I said, you know what? Okay, it's a running back, but it's a guy who scores a touchdown and who is explosive to Jeff's point. And they needed that. And with him gone, now you look around, it's like, who's going to score touchdowns? And the only, if you think about it, the only difference on this team from last year now, from the entire offense, is you have the same offensive line, you have the same backfield for all intents and purposes. You've added Marvin Jones Jr. And you've actually lost maybe your best pass receiving tight end in Tyler Eifert. And so you now look offensively. Now the one huge upgrade is you got your quarterback. Right. And so he'll make everyone better. There's no doubt about it. But big question going in for the Jaguars this year, who's going to score touchdowns for them?
Yeah, because we got a bunch of number twos at the receiving core. Who's our number one? Who's our go-to guy? Who's our deep threat? You think it was Chark, contract year. He might have an opportunity, but he's a two. Marvin Jones is a two. Chenault, he's a two. We don't have a one, and Tony's right. And this business is about scoring points, about scoring touchdowns. And these guys are a bunch of number twos. Who's going to stand out? Who's going to be the go-to guy for Trevor Lawrence? I mean, you've got Chark, could be a deep threat. Chenault was tough as nails. I mean, he catches the ball, you know, 4 or 5 guys to take him down. And then Marvin Jones, you know, he's the veteran presence that, you know, that Trevor Lawrence is going to need. So
well, and you think about that, and Jeff, I mean, I think you saw the same thing on the games or tape, and Leon, I'm sure you did as well. Where's the separation going to come from? Because, okay, where are the touchdowns, but where's the speed? You look at this receiving group, nice. I mean, listen, Marvin Jones, veteran, professional receiver. DJ Chark, if he can be what he was 2 years ago, great. Chenault, we're not sure, but he's not a burner. He's under, you know, kind of a little bit of a gimmicky, get the ball, run after catch guy. Jeff talked about it, you know, at tight end, there's nothing. And so you worry about, like, where's the separation going to come for big plays and for some easy throws?
The one thing I'll just add real quick is that I was so much looking forward to seeing how creative an offensive coordinator could be with what was going to be 2 kind of hybrid players. Yeah. Because Etienne, hybrid player, running back / wide receiver, and then Laviska Shenault, wide receiver / can tote the rock too now. I mean, so it was going to be fun to see that creativity, and now we're not going to see that from, you know, both of their standpoints.
That's a good segue. Creativity is what they're going to hopefully have on defense. Joe Cullen comes in, first time calling plays, but he's been in that 3-4 defense of Baltimore for a long time. Big picture, what have you seen? What concerns you on the defense, Jeff? Again, Joe's just getting his feet wet in terms of calling plays. What do you see big picture from the defense, good and bad?
First and foremost, they're going to be way better against the run. And that's because they upgraded their personnel in the offseason, and I think the scheme is a great fit. But the three guys in the middle, Devon Hamilton, Roy Robertson Harris, and Malcolm Brown, who they acquired in a trade from the Saints, those three guys make them stout immediately. And now you have two middle linebackers that will bloody your nose. And that's Miles Jack and Damian Lewis.
They wanted that.
And they will bloody your nose now. And so, but the big question is that, okay, now you stop the run. Okay, now we have favorable down and distance. Where do we get our impact plays? Where do we make our interceptions? Where do we affect the quarterback? And you hope that you can get some impact plays from the edge. K'Lavon Chaisson, former first-round pick. Josh Allen, can he get back to double-digit sacks? Because at the moment, there's not a whole lot of pressure that's coming from the inside, the three technique pass rushers, the inside. Jihad Ward's a great player. I think he's going to be a fantastic player, contributor and all that. But where will the impact plays come from? I don't know the answer to that from the guys that are up front. I think they're going to mix it up and blitz a lot. And then from the back end, who makes the interceptions? I think one thing that's going to be really interesting to watch, because right now, if I had to predict who's going to lead this team in interceptions, I'm going to tell you it's Andre Cisco.
Had 12 as a collegian. Had 12.
I think he's going to start right away, and I think that he's going to have his hands on a lot of balls this year.
Starts week 1?
I think he does. I mean, why wait? I mean, in the preseason, how many takeaways they get in the preseason? Zero. Okay,
Who do you think
zero.
starts at safety right now? We're doing this right after the first cut, the cut day. Who do you think starts at safety week 1?
Rayshon Jenkins and fill in the blank. I don't.
Cisco starts too.
I'm not against it, by the way. I'm just saying.
Josh Jones and Jared Wilson didn't make the cut for various reasons. That told me Cisco's going to.
Well, Josh Jones is limited physically,
Right.
And Jared Wilson, you could argue that maybe he should have been kept to start. I mean, I would have, but if you're committed to the future and you're committed to finding a way to get takeaways, Andre Cisco is your guy. I mean,
and
nobody else
ultimately
has
he's the
ball
future
skills.
there. It's just whether or not he starts there. What do you like or not like about the defense?
About the defense, well, I like the 3-4. I like what we've done as far as stopping the run. I mean, because last year we couldn't stop a nosebleed, to be quite honest with you. But and I've been around a lot of 3-4 defense with Pittsburgh. And the one thing about it is that you got stout guys in the middle, play 2 gap guys in the middle. You got your 2 gap guys to play, keep sound base of the defense, and then your linebackers are athletic. You know, I had Lloyd and Green and Kirkland and Brown. And when you run that attack style 3-4 defense, you're going to play a lot of man coverage. So a lot of pressure is going to be on the corners to cover the wide receivers. So that means you got to get to the quarterback. And right now, anything that really concerns me is our pass rush. I don't think we have an elite pass rusher on our team right now. I mean, now Josh Allen, he was hurt last year. You know, he had a banner rookie year when he had 10.5 sacks.
Had a lot of guys around him that rookie year, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Chaisson, he was.
Does he have a sack yet?
He was a disappearing act earlier in the season. He had the 1 sack towards the end. So
isn't he a classic example of a guy that the 3-4 fits him better?
Yeah,
than being a
Why do
4.
we keep on saying that?
It would be beneficial.
Because he's 238 pounds, 240 pounds, right?
You got to get there, though. I mean, he can have the look, but he got to get there, though.
I watched him in college a lot. He looked different than he did with his
Okay,
hand on the ground.
I'll say this, because the 3-4-4-3 argument, okay, really doesn't work a lot when you get to that, because once you're rushing the passer, what does everybody run? 4 down. They're playing nickel. Okay, well, I mean, guess what? Last year, it's the same thing. Okay, you rush the passer, hand down, hand up, 2-point, 3-point, take your pick.
It's a little bit. That's what I've always. I mean, in first, second down, it's nice because you maybe get them in space a little bit more. But 65% of the snaps in this league.
What do you think about the defense? Defense overall.
They'll be better because they have better personnel. I'm excited because I'm a big Joe Cullen fan. He's a friend, and I'm glad he got a chance. And if you watch Baltimore, and I've done a number of national games, they're a fun defense. They're aggressive. They blitz. They get after it. And so it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. Everyone says they're going to be great against the run. Well, I hope so. And they got talent, you would think. But because they're in the preseason, they haven't played a starting offensive line yet, I don't think. And so they'll be better because of better personnel, and I'm rooting hard for them. So I'm going to echo everything they said, because I do think they'll be better against the run, by the way. I don't know how they're going to get the quarterback. Because if you talk about how good they've been this preseason against the run, they haven't been able to get to the quarterback against backup offensive linemen, even when they blitz. And so that's my big concern. It's interesting. My concerns about this team, and they are a better team. And I didn't expect to get fixed in 1 year. I mean, if you go look at the draft picks and what they've done leading up to this year, a lot of misses, and they were not very good. So I didn't expect it to get fixed. But if you look at the issues on this team, they're very similar on both sides of the ball. Where are you going to get big plays and score touchdowns on offense? Where are you going to get big plays, splash plays on defense to get people off the field? I think they're going to be better foundationally and at the fundamentals. I think like that. This Urban will do a good job. They have good coaches. They're better players. But where's the plays that help you win? This game is won by guys. You know, the old saying is about Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's. And what that saying really means is it's the guys who can go make a play and beat the other guy across from them.
Right. Well, I mean, it's also who on this team does another team say we have to game plan against? Maybe Miles Jack, maybe. Nobody defensively. No one scares you.
You're not game plan for the middle line.
I know. That's I was stretching.
But Leon, you made the best point of all the things you guys all just said. Leon said the Steelers had this great reputation of 3-4 defense. Well, if you got Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, Levon Kirkland, Chad Brown, you're probably going to have a pretty good 3-4 defense.
Yeah, because guess what we did all week in the meeting room? Like, okay, Kevin Green's over there. Okay, we're going to go figure out how to block him. Okay, then they're going to run this Mike Sam blitz and have Kirkland, this guy come in. Right. And by the way, they got this. They got this cat, Carnell Lake, that's going to come out of nowhere and kill us.
And then the other guy.
You got a 285-pound middle linebacker coming down.
All about the guys.
So
you got to have the guys. So let's wrap this. There's all excitement on the town. Everybody's thrilled about.
Which is awesome.
And it really is. It's so exciting for all of us. We should have this kind of excitement, and I love the jerseys I see, and people are buying tickets, and I think it's great. What's a realistic, fair expectation? How good they'll be? Whether you want to give a number, or whether you want to just talk about progress. Tony first. What's a fair expectation for this season for the Jaguars?
They're going to be better than last year. I know it's really vague. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. You know, you have 17 games. I can't not imagine them losing less than 4 or 5. I have a hard time seeing them winning more than 8.
Okay.
I mean, so I think
middle of the pack. They can get to a middle of the pack team.
I think they can. I think they'll. A lot of it's dependent on injuries. I don't think they're very deep. I don't think they can afford that. I think the back half, they have to start fast. Yep. The wins early, you know. And with all that said, you don't know what the rest of the league's going to do, because maybe you think this really tough schedule isn't that tough because there's a couple injuries in the back half. So, but that's where I see them. Better, much better football.
How good can they be, Leon?
I think they'll be better. I think they'll compete more. I think the roster may be a little better than last year, a lot better than last year. And it's going to be important for them to start early fast. The first 4 games, you know, Houston, Denver, Cardinals, Bengals, you got to win at least 3 of those. You got to, because the other half of the season is brutal. And I just want to see how they compete against the playoff teams, the 49ers of the world, the Buffaloes of the world, the Miamis of the world. And then, anything can happen on a Sunday. I got them somewhere 6. I got them at 6 games.
And you need a good start. I hear you. What about it?
Oh, I'm not worried about the number of wins or anything like that. For me, I'm as excited as I've been in years because of the quarterback. And everything you sit there and you watch on film and you watch some of the little things that he does, you just sit there and you go, I haven't seen this. You know, and to give you a perfect example, the last game in the preseason against the Cowboys, and you remember in training camp, you guys have all been out there, they put these white stripe on their helmet, the quarterback, so they're trying to see where their eyes are. He had 2 plays that breaking down for TV, and he was moving guys with his eyes. This is a guy that hasn't played a game yet. And he's moving a safety on a play so that he's got single high safety to where he's driving that safety to the middle because he knows that he's got a one-on-one on the outside. He's pulling the safety up with his eyes, staring a guy down, and then pump and an out and up. I mean, young quarterbacks don't do that, where the throw, the eyes, the feet are all working together and looking really good.
Even the Jag.
You notice he didn't give a number. Like you
he
notice the
does.
major cop out there.
Well, you all kind of copped. Leon didn't cop out, but
Well, I gave a number.
you had eventually you came up with 8, right? 8
No,
best case.
I said no less than 4 or 5, and I can't see him winning more than 8. So somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Him, it's not about wins. Frank, it's always about wins and losses. It's not about anything
I
else.
learned a lot today. What I didn't know coming in is that Logs dominated you guys at practice. I would have never guessed.
Fact.
So there is that. That is the pundits. Jeff Lageman, Leon Searcy, Tony Boselli. Thank you guys. Thanks to our friends here at Bellwether for having us. That's the pundits. We're excited about a Jaguar season.